It's art day. It's Ms Sudie. I'm so glad to see everybody. We've been missing you. Boy, by the way, did I love our drive-through art show. Everything looks so beautiful. You all did a great job. You're all artists. Well, let's talk about another artist today, and his name is Claude Monet. Here's his name, the way he wrote it, right there, Claude Monet. And he was from the country of France. Remember we looked at the picture of the Eiffel Tower and we discussed where it was, and we talked about that it was in France, in the country of France. Claude Monet was born a long time ago, 1840, and he lived all of his life along a river. And we're going to read a story first. I'm going to a little bit of a story, and then I'm going to show you some other books. There's lots of help for this on the internet, boys and girls. And you can have your moms Google all of these books and Claude Monet, and there's lots of pictures, and there's lots of YouTube videos. I looked this morning, and I'll tell you more about that as we go along. But first, let's look at this cute book, The Magical Garden of Claude Monet. Here's Claude Monet. Look at his big beard, his straw hat. And here's his little friend in the story. This book, boys and girls, is not true, but it is true. It is a story, we've talked about this with other books I've read you, that was written to make it easy to remember Claude Monet and his beautiful garden outside of Paris. And so the things about him are correct. The little girl is a fiction. She is made up to make the story work. Here's a beautiful picture. Remember, we've talked also about this particular author, whose name is Lawrence Anhalt. He draws pictures for these books in the style of the artist that he is writing about. Okay, here we go. The Magical Garden of Claude Monet. I wish we had a garden, said Julie. She looked down at the drab river which ran through the city. Even Louis the Greyhound was bored with being inside. As soon as I have finished my painting, said Julie's mother, I'll take you on a journey to the most wonderful garden in the world. It belongs to an old friend of mine named Claude Monet. They went to the train station in Paris, and it still looks just like this. And they took a train far out of the city. Actually, the garden is about like between here and New Braunfels, 30 miles maybe. So they went out into the countryside. Here's Louis the dog, here's Mom, here's Julie. Now let's look at this picture. When they got there, they got off the train, Louis began to run, bad dog, and he ran down to the garden and snuck through a hole in the fence and disappeared. Uh-oh, Julie was very worried. She didn't know what to do. So she found the gate, and she went inside, and it was like going into a dreamy world where twisting plants grew as tall as trees. Came around the corner and almost knocked down a big man with a spade, that's a shovel, and he wore a straw hat and he had a long white beard. And she asked him, Are you the gardener? And he said, well, I guess I am. So he took her into his greenhouse and showed her how he grew plants from little seedlings. And he said being a gardener is just like a painting. And then she realized that she was talking to Claude Monet. Together, they searched for Louis along the shady path, deeper and deeper in the magical garden, until it seemed that they had left the world behind. Look at this wonderful picture. And here's Claude Monet and Julie here. Under the umbrella under a willow tree and under an umbrella, Julie saw, she saw Louis. And look what Louis had done. He had been walking in the paint. And there were all kinds of paintings sitting around on the grass and one on the easel. Claude Monet said, "I think your dog wants to be a painter too. Look, he's made a picture too." So he had walked in the paint and then walked on the paper. Then Julie saw Monet's paintings laid out in the sun to dry. Clouds floating in a mirror pond, and a field and a garden with haystacks, and a row of trees, and a little Japanese bridge. They turned the handle on a rickety gate in the garden and stepped inside. It was like a garden inside of a garden, a wet, wild, watery garden where willows bowed their heads over a silent pool. Together they crossed the green bridge. Here's Louis and Claude Monet and Julie. They crossed the green bridge. Now, boys and girls, this garden exists today. The bridges are there. And you can go and see it if you ever go to France. Now, here comes my surprise pictures. Everybody loves this. Look what happens. They got into a little boat that Monet has in the garden, and they rowed across the lake. Oh my goodness, Julie was so excited because she was looking at these gorgeous water lilies. And this is the way Monet paints his water lilies. And here they are in the boat. Isn't that cool? And she was noticing the reflection in the water, and we'll talk about that again in just a minute. As they were leaving to go back to the shore in the boat, Claude Monet reached down into the garden and he picked up a big, beautiful water lily blossom. And he gave it to Julie as a gift. So she had this big blossom in her hand, and he took her into his studio. And in his studio, he was working on a set of paintings that he was painting for the country of France. And we'll talk about those in just a minute. And she got to see, because they went all the way around the room, so that you felt like you were inside the garden. That you were in the garden, just like she had just been in the boat. But in order to make you feel like that, if you couldn't go to the garden, in a museum, he wanted these paintings to be all around the room. And they are. They're in a museum called the L'Orangerie in Paris. He told her all about it, and he said, finally, it's time to eat. Mr. Monet collected flowers. He also liked good food. And in his yellow kitchen, he and his family would always prepare different meals. So they were looking for Louis, but where is Louis? He's got his paws up on the table. Do you let your dog do that? Well, Louis is having a piece of bread. And Mr. Monet sat at the table with Julie and her mother and his wife and whatever children were there at the time. And they ate lunch in the yellow kitchen. This kitchen is real. It's at the house at Giverny, and it is beautifully yellow, a beautiful yellow color. Then it was time to leave. Monet walked with them as far as the river. Louis wanted to say goodbye too, but when he jumped up, Julie's beautiful lily went flying into the river. Uh-oh! Oh, Louis, shouted Julie, that was a special lily. So the dog jumped up on her, and the flower flew off into the river. They took the train back to the city, and even Louis was tired, and the garden seemed like a distant memory. This is a gorgeous picture of one of Monet's pictures. But Julie was not pleased that she didn't have her flower. Now let's look at this picture first. In the middle of the night, Julie heard Louis whining. What was he whining about? She didn't know. So she went to look over the balcony. They lived in an apartment. And she looked down into the river, and oh my goodness, what was there? Her water lily. Oh, she was so excited. She and Louis went down the stairs to the river, and they pulled it out, and she had her beautiful flower from Claude Monet. This river, boys and girls, runs along outside of Paris, and then it goes into Paris, where Julie lived. Now this is the story, this is just a real nice story of an illustration of Claude Monet called The Magical Garden. Now, boys and girls, there are many, many books about Claude Monet, and there's lots of stuff on the internet. One of the books that you guys will see if you look on YouTube, moms, is this whole movie is on YouTube. I looked this morning. It's called Linnea in the Garden. Now, it's a similar story about a little girl who goes to visit Claude Monet in his garden, and but it has a lot of nice pictures of the real people and how he did the techniques of. See, here's a cute picture of Linnea in where the arch is and the flowers. But there's some fabulous pictures of Monet himself in here, and here's a real good picture of him in his later years. Do you know why he wore those clothes and that long beard and the hat? Because he worked out in the sun every day. So to protect himself from the sunshine, he covered himself up with a hat and an umbrella. He worked under a big umbrella, and so he protected himself from the sun, and that's a great picture of him as an old man painting. And you can go there and sit on the bench. I had my husband sit on that bench, and I took a picture of him sitting just as Claude Monet did. And there's also some wonderful pictures in here of the giant water lily paintings, and that's in your book. This whole book, it's about 20 minutes. It's a little movie about him, and it's called Linnea in the Garden. And if you'll just YouTube it, you'll see it. Another book that I have used through the years that I love is called Once Upon a Lily Pad. This is a really cute one. Froggy Love in Monet's Garden. And this is a cute illustration about two frogs who live in Monet's garden, and he's there painting, and they think that he's painting them, so they pose for the pictures, but then they raise a bunch of tadpoles. So this is a really cute one. Once Upon a Lily Pad, Froggy Love in Monet's Garden by Joanne Sweeney, really cute. And there's tons of reference books too, kiddos. Claude Monet, The Magic of Color, books that tell about how he did his technique, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But they show pictures of his work and how he did it. And this is the Japanese bridge. There are two Japanese bridges in the garden, and one has, let's see, I think I remember that one has this railing over it and one does not. And he actually got them from Japan, and he imported lilies from all over the world, and they're in his garden. And this garden is open to the public. I've been there twice, and it's gorgeous, and there's lots of good pictures on the internet about it. This book about Monet, an eyewitness book about Monet, this has got some great things in it. One of the reasons that Monet was able to go work in the garden is something revolutionary happened. A man who was, we call him a pharmacist, like he works in a drugstore and gives you your pink medicine when you're sick. He invented the way to put the paint inside a toothpaste tube, so that you could take the paint outside with you and you could squirt it out on your palette and then you could paint. Before that, paint had to be mixed in small batches, like in little cups, and it had to be mixed right before you used it, or it would dry up and be no good. Well, this gentleman, he invented the way to do that, to put it into a tube. And so that made it possible for Monet and his buddies to go outside. It's right here. they made it possible for Monet and his buddies to go outside and paint. And they called this type of painting in plein air. In other words, they were outside in the garden and they got very excited about the light. What did you think the light is, everybody? Where do you think light comes from? Well, it comes from the light fixtures. But look outside the windows at your house. That's really much more interesting. The light coming through the trees to the sun. From the sun through the trees and into the windows. So they wanted to make this possible. They wanted to look at this and talk about this. So then, Mr. Monet and his friends, some other Impressionist painters, they decided, let's don't make everything look just like we took a picture of it. Let's do some fast painting, and let's give it a look, and let's let your brain make the connection. Let's let your head say, oh, cool, this is the garden, this is the bridge, but it doesn't look like a photograph was painted. And the painting before that, boys and girls, every painting had to look like it was a photograph. So they started a new group called Impressionism. And they got a lot of heat for this, because what I mean by that is nobody liked it. They said, what are you trying to do? Just give us the impression of this? And they actually did give them the impression of it. And so it became known Impressionism. Well, here at the Acorn, we have a couple of ways. I'm going to show you a couple of ways to do this to become Monet. And there's many, many more on the internet, kiddos. Have your moms look on the internet. There's some really cute ones. But I'm going to show you two different ways to do these projects. But I want you to really look at this and think about this while I am showing. While I'm talking and demonstrating, you can look at the two paintings. They're both beautiful colors. What colors do you see? Well, you see, this is the lily pond. This is the pond. And you can see the reflection, the bridge, the willow tree. Remember the willow tree? Those trees don't do too well in San Antonio. Willow tree with the leaves coming down because they hang down, like this one. And then look at all the little flowers. Now those flowers are not painted to look like exactly like a flower does. They're painted so that you know that that is a flower, but every detail is not done. And I'm going to step over here and have you focus on this right here. Look at that flower, boys and girls. What Mr. Monet did was he used his wrist and he used little quick motions. And he put red paint, put yellow paint, he put pink, white. So you know this is a flower because it looks like it to you. But if you get up really close, you can see how he used just real quick little brush strokes. Let's look at this one. This picture at the top here is, you can see the pond and the willow tree and the lily pads and the flowers. And look at this one. It's about 4 little squiggles of yellow paint. So this looks just great. And remember, this is water. And what are the colors of water? Blue, purple, green. And this one we've got a little white, some orange. So how can we do that? Okay, I'm going to show you the technique I use with the blueberries first. And I'm going to walk over here and I'm going to show you some tools I've made. And we'll see whether or not you think this will work. We're going to test it out together. Now here at the Acorn, we have some fun little things like this. They're like rubber bands in a brush. I love these things. They make great Monet paintings. But you know what? You may not have that at home. But you do have a pencil. And you do probably have some leaves. This is off my fern at home. So I decided to try to make one of these out of some ferns and a pencil. So I'm putting these together. Put my pencil here. And I'm going to take some masking tape, make sure it's the sticky kind. And I'm going to tape it onto my pencil. And we're going to see if this works. Okay? And you can also just use them plain. Now I have several colors here. I've got red. That'll be for my lily pads. I've got green. And I've got blue. And I've got purple. Now, so the first technique I'm going to show you is I'm going to take these over right here. And I've got white. Okay. And I'm going to use on my acorn school tool and the one I just made. We'll see how it happens. Let's experiment together. Okay. Now, use one. Either wash them off or make one for each color. I'm going to start with blue. And I'm not going to use this as a paintbrush. I'm going to hop like a rabbit. Okay, let's try our homemade one and see what happens here. Oh, it works great. Look at that, guys. So what I'm doing is I'm doing the water. I'm trying to make the water look like it's a reflection. Oh, I like that. That works great. Now I'm going to use green. And guys, more paint is not better. It's just more. You just want to get enough on here to give you the impression. I have it sitting on this purple piece of paper so you can see it better. And you know what? If you don't want to do it, you can just do it like this with your fingers. Okay, and what other color should we use? Some purple. Because the colors of the water are blue, green. These are the flowers, so they're not the color. You're doing the base first. You're doing the color of the water. Now, like with the blueberries, kiddos, I'm going to show you how to put some easy flowers on. And I'm going to come over here and get some little small pieces of tissue paper that I have. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to demonstrate a couple of times how to do this. This is how we do it in the bears. Now I'll take 3 pieces over and I'll show you how to stick these. Now, okay, if you take a piece of tissue paper, be sure you have just one little square of tissue paper. Mom may have some of this in your wrapping box, and you just cut a little square. It doesn't have to be a precise size. Now you take the end, look, eraser, pencil tip, eraser. You put the eraser in the piece of paper, and I just squinch it around it, and then you stick it on the paper, and it sticks without glue. And I always have the bears do at least 3. But you can decide what color you want the flowers to look like. Okay? So that is a quick and easy way to do a Claude Monet water lily painting. Now I'm going to put this down on the ground, and I'm going to show you another way. If we were together in the studio, kiddos, we would be painting this. Now again, kiddos, I'm going to use a single brush for each color. That prevents me having to clean it up all the time. If you don't want to do that and you want to wash your brushes in between, you are more than welcome to. The 2 things I want you to be sure that you have on your painting is the weeping willow tree and the bridge. And I want you to do that however you want it. So I'm going to do a little bit of it. I'm not going to do the whole picture, but I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay? Now I think I will start with, I'm going to use some On my piece of paper here, I'm going to draw the bridge. I'm doing it blue and purple. So I'm going to put the bridge first. Now if you'll notice, the bridge has some cross pieces and a railing. So don't forget to put that on. Does this have to be perfect, kiddos? It does not have to be perfect. It has to be yours and what you are looking at and what you like. Okay, so you're just doing a quick bridge. Now, I'm going to take some green and I'm going to get this tree going over here. I like for boys and girls to do the tree because the tree is a different, it's an up and down with your arm instead of a side to side. And moms, however they do this, it's perfect. Whatever they do is just the best. Okay, you can see how I got a little blue in there? That works. And if you have some yellow out, you can put yellow in it. And there's a lot of white contrast too. If you'll look at this one, see how they got white? The sun coming in. The idea, moms, is that they're standing at an easel, if you can manage it, and they're painting their impression of what they're looking at, and you can get those pictures on the internet. They're doing their impression of what they're looking at, and what you want to get them to do is to enjoy the different ways to paint and to represent the water and the sky and the tree and the bridge. Now, I'm going to go fast. I'm going to do the water just like I did on that one. I'm going to use this thing. Because that makes great water. And then I'm going to do green. This is just out in my yard, kids. And you know what'll be fun? You can go choose things in your yard that interest you, that tickle your eyes. And if you happen to have one of these tools, you can use that. Now you can try with doing it this way. I have never done that before, but I just thought of that. You can try putting one of these on here. But what I like is to take the brushes and then put some dots or some little squiggles on it that make the flowers like this, see? And you can put the colors side by side. Like there's a lot of white underneath this. It's not precise. It's just fun. And then you can finish it up. I like for boys and girls to fill the whole paper if they can. And do your impression of how you think Claude Monet would do this painting. So I hope this is fun. Enjoy and send me a picture. Bye, kiddos.